Shalom, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the elders and apostles of the nation of Israel, better known as the Great Millstone. Shalom and salutations to all you sincere Akim pushing this word in truth and in sincerity. Um, so I came across this headline on the news, and so I just decided to look it up and get a little bit more information. This is entitled Puerto Rico just hired two contractors with little experience to fix its broken power grid. Okay, now um, there's something to this, and you'll see it here because who they hired um, are contractors or companies that aren't in the business of power grids. They're in the business of fracking. Okay, and so if you look up fracking, okay, what fracking is, the process of injecting liquid at high pressure into subterranean rocks, boreholes, etc., so as to force open existing fissures to extract oil or gas. Now, um, as far as they've released, um, there's not much. Um, this is mrdata.usgs.gov, and it's a geology map of Puerto Rico. Okay, and I've turned on a few things, turned on shade relief, mineral resources, and then there's other things you can turn on to see. Okay, and then they give you a key margin here. And since I got a few programs running, it's a little buggy, but it'll all come into view. Well, I guess it is now. It's just got too much stuff turned on, so we'll get rid of them. Now, one thing about Puerto Rico is this it's it's a it's titled Rich Port, Puerto Rico, right? It's a rich port. Now, um, so like yeah, just trying to go through some of this in proper order. Here it is. Whitefish Energy Services received the first contract from Puerto Rico's Public Power Company, or PREPA. They signed a $300 million dollar contract on October 19th, the largest contract awarded yet in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. The tiny Montana-based company had only two full-time employees when Maria hit, according to Washington Post. Now it's interesting, they're coming from Montana because Montana, as far back as a couple years, has been getting a lot of the Gadites up there, the Blackfeet tribe. They've been getting selling their land. They've been getting offers and selling their land and mineral rights to get oil going up there. They don't have casinos up there in Montana like they do in some of the other states. They're a very poor tribe. It's very corrupted. Their councilmen and leaders aren't even Gadites. A lot of them are Edomites, and they just siphon off the money and use it on whatever. So interesting. The same company, Whitefish, right? White's supposed to represent purity and cleanliness, truth, righteousness, and it should be called Redfish, as the devil themselves, the so-called white man being the Edomites. Okay, so interesting link or correlation there between Montana and Puerto Rico. Now, um, this is one thing I'm going to bring up is Hosea 7 and 8. Ephraim, okay, which is the tribe of or the tribe of Ephraim, being the so-called Puerto Ricans. Okay, he hath mixed himself among the people. Ephraim is a cake not turned. Strangers now. He's mixed himself amongst the people. It's when you look at the so-called Puerto Rican ethnicity, they range heavily from light skin to dark skin. just as a cake is not turned, meaning if you cook a cake just on one side, it's going to burn on the side facing the heat, and the other side that's not facing the heat is not going to cook, right? Like you get a toaster or an oven with only one coil working on one side, then it's an obvious imagery. Okay, strangers have devoured his strength, and he knoweth it not. Yea, gray hairs are here and there upon him, yet he knoweth it not. Now, Ephraim, in mixing himself with the people, and think because Puerto Rico is an American territory. It is an American territory. They love going down to their oppressors for help. Okay, strangers have devoured his strength. So like in verse 10, and the pride of Israel testifieth to his face, and they do not return to the Lord their God, their power, nor seek him for all this. Ephraim also is like a silly dove without mind. They call, here's the point, they call to Egypt, they go to Assyria. As soon as Puerto Rico got into trouble, who did they call? Egypt, the house of bondage, America. And the talks, if you were listening in on any of what was going on, you didn't have to listen to much or even a lot of it. But Trump, when he met with the president, and he told him that look, he met with him and conducted that interview, and other articles will tell you this. He conducted it as if he were a banker and not as a president of a U.S. territory. So Puerto Rico looking to get their shit get their poop in a group, get their shit together. Okay, with this power grid, hey, they're bringing in companies that are gonna come and start tearing up their land, their landscape. Okay, I'm gonna pull something else. This is Genesis 49 and 1. And Jacob called unto his sons and said, gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. So the patriarch of the nation of Israel, okay, Jacob, one of our forefathers, prophesied what would happen to his sons in these last days and times. Verse 2, gather yourselves together and hear, understand, okay, hear and understand, ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel your father. I'm going to jump down to Joseph, okay, because Joseph is another term for the northern kingdom, interchangeable with Ephraim, okay, as being a head tribe for the northern kingdom. It says, Joseph is a fruitful bow, even a fruitful bow by a well, whose branches run over the wall. This is dealing with mixing and mingling himself with the people. The archers have sorely grieved him and shot at him and hated him. But his bow abode in strength, and his arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty power of Jacob. From thence is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. Even by the power of thy Father who shall help thee, and by the Almighty who shall bless thee with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lieth under, blessings of the breast and of the womb. The blessings of thy father have prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors unto the utmost bound of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him that was separate from his brethren. Now, a little bit of this is going into a reflection of how Joseph was in Egypt and he prospered, right? Well, one thing about Ephraim is that God, where was that in? I think it was in Deuteronomy or Exodus. Okay, where Joseph was in Egypt, and let me see if I can find it. I'm trying to think of the correct phrasing here. But while he was in Egypt, he had everything, and he didn't even realize it, basically. Yeah, Joseph blessed in Egypt. That should Genesis 39. Maybe it is Genesis 39. Okay, so I'm gonna pull it up and give you an example. Okay. Yeah. This is it. Genesis 39. We'll just start at 1. It's short. And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down thither. And the Lord was with Joseph, and was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master the Egyptian. You see, going back to Hosea, Ephraim also is like a silly dove without mind. They call to Egypt, they go to Assyria. Now, this is speaking as a tribe wholly, and here we're dealing with an individual. Okay, but this is one characteristic with Ephraim, okay, or Joseph, is that they're fruitful. Things prosper within their hands, and I can say through the Spirit that is true and that is very accurate. Okay, even with my own personal experiences. Verse 2. And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master the Egyptian. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand. And Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him, and he made him overseer of his house, and all that he had put into his hand. And it came to pass from the time that he had made him overseer in his house, and over all that he had, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of the Lord was upon all that he had in the house and in the field. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he knew not aught he had, you see, save the bread which he did eat. And Joseph was a goodly person and well favored. And that's one thing about so-called Puerto Ricans, um, those of the tribe of Ephraim, of Joseph, is that the Most High is constantly looking out, and um, whatever this tribe puts their hands to, it prospers in, and a lot of times, you know, Jake doesn't realize what he has, until you reflect on it, like damn, So just like just like it was prophesied and it's in the spirit with Puerto Rico, okay? It's this is the tribe of Ephraim, okay? The rich port, a lot of they got oil offshore too, you know, but they have a lot of you know, how do you say, undeveloped land, I guess you could say. So get rid of the shade relief, get rid of the minerals. I think there was one. Let me see. Slovakia. I just got this. So I'm trying to. There was a something here earlier, and I probably passed it, but it was dealing with the like the city streets, if I'm not mistaken. Open Street Map. There it is. Okay, so you can kind of see now. So magnetic anomaly, which that's going to be usually by. So this devil, he does a diligent search, puts these things into quadrants, you know, and he really gets to work. He really gets to work. He's got everything mapped out. I mean, it is a U.S. territory, so they know, where to go, where to dig, where to look for the oil, where to get minerals, and with all this water activity, it's a, it should be great for agriculture too. So I'm gonna pull up another map. Okay, pull up another map. See if I can get it on the the satellite. It's pretty green. Um, looks a lot like the Northwest, and everyone's modeled after America. Coastal living, highways, cities, right? You got the country life. I mean, there's a lot of room out here. There is a lot of room out here, but that's just how things are set up. So, uh, going back and showing Puerto Rico is always trusting in the so-called white man, the Edomite. They're always trusting in Edom to help them out. A lot of them join the militaries and just for the citizenship. They want to be like their oppressor. It says an Oklahoma-based fracking company announced last week it had also signed a contract with PREPA. This is a 4-month, $200 million contract with a subsidiary of Mammoth Energy called Cobra Energy. Now, Cobra, I think, was introduced early on with the first, how do you say, incident with, no, I'm trying to find something dated back a little bit further back. Here it is, Oklahoma, Cobra. Yeah, I remember hearing this a lot too, this about this company. Okay, OKC firm secures $200 million contract to power in Puerto Rico. Um, Now, Cobra, oil and gas, they have nothing to do with power grids, you know? Here at Cobra, we strive to create value for our investors, see, by consistently growing our reserve base through a unified and focused commitment to excellence. That's bullshit. Yeah, towards the investors. Okay, toward the fulfillment of this mission, we dedicated ourselves to providing the highest standards in quality, service to the industry with an emphasis placed on integrity, communication, teamwork, efficiency, and creativity. And that's that's where you gotta really watch these devils. Okay. It sounds good, but really, these are just big fancy words for we're gonna fuck you without you understanding. And that's what happens with Ephraim. Okay, Cobra Oil and Gas Corporation is a privately held independent oil and gas company based in Wichita Falls, Texas. Cobra acquires lease acreage and geological and geophysical data for purposes of assembling exploration and development drilling prospects. Cobra is owned by Jeff R. Dillard and Robert W. Osborne. Cobra operates producing properties in Alabama, Kansas, Arkansas, Louisiana, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas. Craig Reynolds provides geological expertise in the Wichita Falls office and is responsible for prospect generation and review. Cobra continues to assemble leasehold interests and acquire 2D and 3D seismic on exploration projects that will be available for participation. So I guess that's where you could say they're coming in with mapping to see where to set up uh, the the infrastructure of this power grid. But you think that a company um, that deals with power would be the company to go to? Why go to these people? So I'm just feeding my own curiosity bone here at this point and looking up, maybe just you do accusations in a word search sometimes, and sometimes you get lucky. Jeff R. Dillard and Donald Trump. Jeff T. and Dillard Fellowship, Real Trump. You know, you just cross-reference information to find. Sometimes you find something, sometimes you don't. But you could always maybe his name wouldn't be so prominent. Maybe Donald Trump about his Cobra move. No. Well, let's look at news. Those articles might have something. No, it's pretty much the same thing. Bisexual tattoo artist. Oh, pays homage. Stupid. Yeah, that shit keeps you in the dark. all those BET reality shows. But either way, I'm sure I could do a more thorough search and find a little bit more, handshaking between Trump and this energy company. I'm sure it's out there, but either way, the main point of this is to show Puerto Rico, the tribe of Ephraim, constantly trusting in their oppressors, constantly dealing with um, uh, those that rule over them, okay? Constantly dealing with them that rule over them. And one thing about Edom is they love to mix and mingle themselves in too, So it's this hand joining hand concept that that they think they're able to prosper with, okay? Which it tells you in Proverbs that's not the case. Okay, it tells you this is not the case. Proverbs 11:21. Though hand join in hand, the wicked shall not be unpunished, but the seed of the righteous shall be delivered. So just because you have the nation of Edom joining and shaking hands with the tribe of Ephraim, you still have the elect of the tribe of Ephraim, okay, the 1/3 that are going to be delivered out of uh, that madness, okay? Everyone that is proud in heart is an abomination to the Lord. Though hand join in hand, he shall not be unpunished. See? And the most proud in heart person is this devil, the so-called white man, the red Hebrew Edomite. Okay? So that's proof on that right there. And historically, if you do more research on the Taino Indians and the Spanish settlers, okay, um, who would come, I mean, they would massacre them. They would be massacred. Um, so just type in something like that. There's two S's. Okay. So we'll just click on the first one. Okay, the Indians who greeted Columbus were long believed to have died out, but a journalist's search for their descendants turned up surprising results. There goes that mixing. Okay, if you ever paddled a canoe, napped in a hammock, savored a barbecue, which that means sacred pit, smoked tobacco, or tracked a hurricane across Cuba, you have paid tribute to the Taino. The Indians, which they called them Indians because they said that the indigenous called themselves Indios, which is a gods, okay, and they called them Indians, which is a slang term for slave, who invented those words long before they welcomed Christopher Columbus to the New World in 1492. See, so this is getting out more and more, and we had Columbus Day some weeks back. It says their world, which had its origins among the Arawak tribes of the Orinoco Orinoco Delta, gradually spread from Venezuela across the Antilles in waves of voyaging and settlement begun around 400 BC. Now you had in the time of Hosea the king, okay, where in the time of Hosea, you had the northern kingdom split from the Middle East and come here to the New World, okay, and it tells you that in the Apocrypha, that they might keep their own lands, which it's what's that, Second Ezra. Let me grab my sword real quick. It's a lot. Okay, so you had this take place. You had you had this take place. Okay, just 1 second. Okay, so these are the things that have happened. Um, just bear with me for a second. Pull it up. Okay, while I pull this, I'm gonna keep reading this other article too. Okay. It says they developed self-sufficient communities on the island of Hispaniola in what now is Haiti and the Dominican Republic, in Jamaica and eastern Cuba, in Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and the Bahamas. They cultivated yucca, sweet potatoes, maize or maize, which is corn, beans, and other crops as their culture flourished, reaching its peak by the time of European contact or Edomite contact, as they should say. They should just call them Edomites. Um, okay, so okay, Second Ezra 13 and 40. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanasar, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and he carried. See the Assyrians again. Now we're dealing with the in Hosea. Ephraim also is like a silly dove without heart. They call to Egypt, they go to Assyria. Okay. Okay. Those are the two greatest known captivities. For the northern kingdom is Egypt and Assyria. Okay. Led them captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so they came into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt, which is the Western Hemisphere. Okay, let me see. Still got that map up? No. Okay, I'm gonna pull a map back up. Um, okay, so we go boom, bam, satellite. Close that out. Okay, so this is the known world at the time. Okay, this is the known world at the time. Okay, this is where everyone's wheeling and dealing. And look, they said that we're gonna leave here. Okay, they're gonna leave the Middle East. Okay, and they traveled down around this cape. Okay, all the way up here. Boom. And they came straight across this way. This is the known route. Everyone would take this route. They would sail down around here, boom, and then catch the currents west. Now this land, people weren't living over here. Okay, they would come here to gather supplies and things. They'd venture around, gather stuff. You know, but no one was living here like they were living over here. Civilization, what they call civilization. Okay, what they call civilization. Okay, it says now remember, it said they left the heathen that were round about the other nations because everyone was here. They left everyone that was here and they came this way. Okay, it says that they might keep their statues which they never kept in their own land, and they entered into Euphrates by the narrow passage of the river. Okay, the Euphrates River. By the narrow passage, the Euphrates. Okay, and boom, they come out. Okay, by the narrow passage, the Euphrates. Okay, just to give you an idea, because this is where the Assyrian, Babylonian captivities were taking place. Okay, so you have the four main water rivers out here. Okay, um, continuing on in verse 44, for the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over. So you had Issachar, who was able to read and navigate the stars. Okay, the Most High showing them the way, giving them signs, and made these waters peaceable for them to travel, which these are harsh waters. These can be very harsh waters, and held and kept the seas calm. Because this is a you have hurricane seasons over here. You have strong tempests that take place, as people know. And he let all that stay calm so that they could come to this side. It says, "For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, and the same region is called Arsareth, which is a new land basically. Then dwelt they there until the latter time, and now when they shall begin to come." So it says they've dwelt here until the last days. Remember what we read earlier? I know this is boring for some people, but this is why this is only for the elect. It says, "And Jacob called unto his sons and said, Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days." And what are we reading here in the Apocrypha? Um, in verse 2nd Ezra chapter 13, verse 46, "Then dwelt they there until the latter time, and now when they shall begin to come. The highest shall stay the springs of the stream again, that they may go through. Therefore sawest thou the multitude with peace." And you're going to have the elect and the 1/3 coming, okay, out of these 12 tribes, okay, from all over the world where they were scattered, where they were taken to and taken from. Okay, you're going to have the tribes coming from here. Okay, okay, yeah, go somewhere. Okay, um, so just something that I was, that I was, not trying to get into, but the Spirit had put on, and something I wanted to share. So that's already the 30-minute mark. I'm gonna cut it there. Do some more research. If you have questions, hit the comment board. Until next time, Shalom.